Okay, so this here today is simply not gonna be a review because I don't review beta products. And I don't actually want to say that the Beyerdynamic Lagoon ANC is a beta product, but it also doesn't feel like a finished product. And if you don't believe me, just Google Beyerdynamic Lagoon ANC issues and you will get a ton of forum posts talking about that. And that has to do with the delay. Because it was announced on IFA last year, it should have been already released late last year, and yet it's like end of June and it came out about a month ago. And yes, with updates, they could actually fix a few issues, but I'm not 100% sure if all of these can be fully fixed. So therefore, I will kinda not review it like I normally do, but maybe keep it more like down to constructive criticism that maybe Beyerdynamic sees that and can at least try to fix some of the things, maybe in this version or maybe in the next version. Because I still have to say that I like quite a lot of things about it. But yeah, a final judgment I just can't give it, at least now, maybe in a month, I don't know. But before we are getting into that, let's see what's in the box. We get this pretty nice carrying case, I like it. It's not that thick or so, good. Then the headphones, I'm not going to go into the cables and all these kind of things. But when it comes to the design, the first thing that I've noticed when I saw this on IFA is already that this does not seem anything like a Beyerdynamic. For example, here, the Avento Wireless from Beyerdynamic, those look like Beyerdynamics if they would make on-ears, because they are. Because here it looks a lot different, and it looks a little bit like a generic, in my opinion, ANC Bluetooth headphone, which it kinda is in some ways at least. But here's the thing, these cost 400 euros. And I've seen a lot of people complaining about how kind of flimsy and plasticky they feel. Because for a price of 400, this shouldn't be a thing. Because these, nothing. This is solid. Nice kind of fake leather and good appearance. And yeah, not comparable though since it's not ANC. But these still are okay. But for the price I would expect more. The design is okay. If I put them on my head, you will notice one thing. There is a little bit standing off here, but usually if you have hair, it would be fine, I guess. So I don't see this to be a bigger issue, but otherwise, the build execution for the used materials is fine. We have some padding here. It's super soft. It also feels super soft here, which it maybe isn't quite, but I'll get into that. Obviously, they rotate. What we also have is light guide, so if you have music playing, you take them off, this will light up orange, and like after 2 or 3 seconds, the music will stop playing. Once you put them on, it will start playing again. Then, for example, here, as you can see, this works out nice. I would maybe wish for it to be a little bit stiffer, but it's fine. I've seen this way worse. We can also fold them up. Then we have the controls, for example, here, 2 steps for ANC, Bluetooth. If you push this all the way down, you can get it to pairing mode, turn it on and off. The 3.5mm jack and USB-C for charging, obviously the microphones and so on. Well, my main issue with this whole thing is not the design or the build quality, it's those, ear cups, because in my opinion those are noticeably too small and feel, even though they are quite thick and soft, almost too hard. They are not really comfortable. This is too small. My ear just barely fits in, but touches at all times. I've seen this on other headphones already being done better, but I mean, comfort is not my thing, and I've seen people saying that they can't use it for way too long because, especially due to the seal, quite an obvious one, you will sweat quite a lot. And for me personally, the clamping for it was almost a little bit too much, so therefore I could use it for an hour or two, but not ever kind of forget them or be super comfortable with it. The fit is good. They sit very strong and they fit quite snug, and maybe if you don't care so much about that, but it feels a little bit odd, especially since we have a different kind of thickness of the padding here and so, but the whole distribution on the head in normal use doesn't feel amazing. I mean, I guess you can get used to them. I'm just not used to these smaller ear cups, but that's that. Now, yeah, let's talk about the ANC. Well, it's nothing special. When I tried them already on IFA the first time, it felt like very generic. I asked them, did you develop it on your own? And they said, no, we bought an off-the-shelf chip. And that is obvious because the ANC is pretty average. Nowhere near, not even Bose, but definitely not even Sony. But for example, it filters out the lower regions, for example, on a train, on an airplane, actually quite solid. But already the mids and the highs get through way too much, and you hear a lot of other noises that you shouldn't already hear. I mean, obviously, it won't filter out noises. I don't get why people always think it should filter out noises. You can usually pretty much monotonous or constant sounds filter out easy, but talking is not really a thing, and that's what they don't do. But also these kind of general like humming noise and so on, if they're on a higher frequency, don't get filtered out so much. I have to say though that the isolation of the ear cup, since the fit is pretty snug, is already pretty good, because I hear myself super muffled already now. But yeah, but there is also an issue with the whole ANC thing, and it has to do with the aptX. Now, I've read that if you use them with AAC, the sound profile with the app, and then noise cancelling, then they actually shouldn't have an issue. But if you use aptX, if you use the sound enhancement tool with the Make It Yours app or Mosaic app, and ANC, then they get into trouble, and I can definitely confirm that, because what happens then is that, especially at the lower end, you get kind of some popping or crackling sounds, like the bass would distort. I mean, that is not good. I've heard people talking way more worse stuff when it was announced early on. I think they fixed already a few things with firmware updates or something like that, because they said they had a lot of cutouts and it was unusable. It is usable by now, because you hear the crackling and rumbling and so on, but it's maybe actually even not worse enough for some people, because I've read for a few people about it that they said they are fine with them, they know about the limitations, and they are okay since the sound quality is so good, which it is, but I'll get into it later. But at 400 euros, a crackling with the ANC for an ANC headphone shouldn't be a thing, and especially if you want to use aptX, which you would desire. Now, the Make It Yours app is also the next little bit of an issue. Well, I tried it first of all on my OnePlus. I made the test, and I mean, it takes like 5 minutes, at least it feels like that, even though it actually feels like half an hour. And then when it tries to upload the profile, it got stuck and it said failed. I tried so many times, did the test again, tried it on my iPad, did it again. And today actually I got an update, made the test, and then it actually worked. About that Mosaic software, what it does is you get a hearing test, you hear different kind of noises. I actually don't think that the solution is the very best, because let me actually try to show this here right now, because here it is. Yeah. So let's let it connect for a second here. Okay. Here you can see you can use the full force of the optimization or not so much. I think full force is sometimes a little bit too much. Then the bass gets a little bit more wobbly. It doesn't get quite a precision. Generally, at least when I do the test, I don't actually see that much of a difference, because I guess my hearing is already pretty good, and therefore it doesn't change much, but it feels like a little bit of sounding. So highs get a little bit clearer, bass gets a little bit more pronounced, but it seems a little bit too much. So keep it maybe like at 50, a little bit less. But with ANC also, you will already notice issues. But for example, if you want to do the hearing test, it works like this. It will personalize now. Then you will hear the sounds. And then whenever you hear the sound, you have to hold your finger down and then let it go. And this is just not something very convenient, because if you maybe mess this up, you have to do it again, because sometimes I thought I heard something. You can hear this already now. Now I would have to press. And well, the problem is also you don't really see a result. They do something, but whenever I do the test, it always feels like the same. So I don't really see a difference. Otherwise, the app shows you the statistics. You can change the touch sensitivity and get some information. But for example, what Audira did with their first version, they had a kind of hearing test, and you could on your own take every single frequency and then adjust it to the way that you don't hear it anymore, and then you got a result, and you saw how your ears passed, and then you could actually slightly adjust it. Here you do the test, and then you just get a result, and you don't really see what's happening, because what I would have liked to have seen, for example, if I do the test, and if, for example, another person does the test, so that I can see how his hearing actually compares to mine or something like that, would have been handy, and maybe adjust it in a different way than just percentages or so. Maybe if I say, I mean, it is a Make It Yours app, it's called like that, or I mean, it's the Mosaic, but still, it was called Make It Yours, and I would maybe, for example, let's say, want a little bit more bass. I would like to adjust that maybe, or a little bit highs, and obviously you can do this with an equalizer, but I mean, that's not what I want to do. Otherwise, let me quickly check what's there. Codec, it supports aptX, not HD. A lot of people have issues with that. I think aptX is absolutely fine. But the synchronicity delay was absolutely fine. With aptX, I think it actually even supports aptX low latency. So I saw no issues. I could watch videos without any issues. The connection was stable. Background noise was not an issue. Volume, that is an issue for me because I like to listen loud. And I mean, I should kind of still be able to if I want to, even though it's maybe not healthy and most people won't do it. 95% of the people will be happy enough, but I wasn't, because even fully maxed out, I missed like 10 to maybe even 20% of volume, especially for some older tracks that aren't as loud. And when I used the Make It Yours app, the sound profile adjustment, it got a little bit louder because it boosts, like I said, the mids and the highs and the bass and so on. But that is not the way I would want it. I want it loud enough already out of the box. So for me, on a long-term base, not good enough. For just casual listening, it's fine though. The microphone quality is actually pretty good. It was quite clean. The only issue with my Bluetooth recording app is that it only uses 32 bits or mbits or kilobits, and therefore the quality was pretty low, but I guess the actual result on its own should be even better. So to get to that, before we get into the sound, Make It Yours app is not stable. It didn't upload the profiles for a long time. Now it worked. And well, like I said, ANC, aptX causes issues, especially some distortion at the lower end. Maybe some people won't mind it. I've also heard that it doesn't make so much of an issue with ANC with level 1. Level 2 got worse. If you only use the profile enhancement, I think it was fine. Sound just got a little bit less control, but generally it stayed the same. And the good thing is that the sound signature stays maintains to be pretty much the same if you use ANC or not. But like I said, the ANC is pretty generic. And ANC, also to be mentioned, has quite a lot of white noise. It sounds actually noticeably louder with a higher pitched sound than on a lot of other headphones. Because, for example, I tried it with a fan, wanted to see how much it filters it out, but the actual white noise was louder than the fan on full force. So that kind of, yeah, doesn't really make it what it should do. Okay. Soundstage, nothing special. It's on a good medium size. It's a closed headphone after all, so all good. Imaging was also fine. The vocals were pushed normally, so yeah, they were kind of okay. I'm okay with that. Dynamic was also actually pretty good. Sound signature, well, out of the box, definitely the typical Beyerdynamic after all. So more bass, more highs. Mids sometimes feel a little bit recessed. The balance though, I think, is actually superb. I think a lot of people will like it, especially with the extra bump in highs. I like that. Then for mainstream, it's actually a little bit more brilliant, a little bit more kind of airy or more open, a little bit fresher at the high end, which is something that I like more than usually. And they are definitely very well suited for long-term use. Sub-bass actually does a good job because that one had a little bit more force, but the general bass, I have to say, was lacking a lot of punch because it feels very fast and responsive, and it feels like every time there is a bass kind of a bunch of bass coming, it always feels like someone would take his fist with full force, and like a split second before it actually hits you, there is someone putting a pillow in and it gets soft. This is so odd. I've never experienced a bass like that at first glance feels like it has a lot of impact, but then pretty much poofs off and it doesn't deliver that impact or punch at all, which is very weird. I mean, the presence is good of the bass because it is not kind of heavy or too bleeding or doing too much. It's actually more on the neutral side compared to so many other ones. I mean, I'm not even gonna talk about Sony, what they are doing with the bass. So this I actually like in terms of bass signature, but the actual quality feels a little bit off. Then vocals, I like those absolutely fine in that regard. Also the clarity at the higher end, they didn't feel sibilant at all. They had a little bit of a kind of maybe a little bit the typical Beyerdynamic peak that I never minded so much, but they feel just well done, I may have to say. Especially the airiness, the openness felt good, the kind of fresher feel, and the details were also pretty good. For what do they work? For all genres, I would say. Even bass they could do quite a lot. Like I said, it can be a little bit uncontrolled with the sound enhancement and so on. Now, competition. Well, I don't really have much going on at the newer segment. As you can see here, actually sometimes also changes the lighting, so if you know that you know which one is left and right and so on. But yeah, that's a little bit more of a gimmick for me than anything else. Now, there is the Denon GC30 that I should get soon as well. Heard a lot of good things about that. Obviously, Sony 1000 XM3, which in terms of sound are nowhere near this, because I still have to emphasize on one thing. These, even without an enhancement, especially if you don't lose ANC, sound really, really good. And if I would just base it on base the judgment on that, this is by far, at least from what I've heard, the best Bluetooth headphone with ANC, because it has a lot of details. It has a nice kind of almost neutral sounding for a mainstream headphone, obviously, and I like that. So it was a lot of fun to listen to music, but it's not that much fun if you have to kind of live with all the issues that come along with it, like for example the crackling and so on. But definitely way better than the 1000X. If you don't need the ANC, because they can't compete. The Sonys are here the benchmark. The Denon, and for example, I didn't try. The Bose don't sound as good. The comfort was better. The ANC was better. So this is one that I can definitely recommend if it just comes down to audio. Okay, now, pros and cons. Sound well above the average here in an ANC headphone department. Then aptX, but not aptX HD. I'm fine with that. Battery life, I didn't even talk about that because, I mean, they claim like, I don't even know how much, 24 or 36 hours, I don't know. If they get me like more than 12 hours, I'm good with that because, for example, 12 hours, that's pretty much the longest single flight and you could get with through that. So I had longer flights though, I have to say. And then I like that the profile that you make stays on the headphone, so you don't need it particularly every time on the device. So you can use it on your PC or whatever you use it with Bluetooth because the profile is on the headphone. Now, cons. Well, they could be louder for me, but for 95% I think this should be fine. The Make It Yours app is not reliable. The ANC is definitely not on that level that you would expect for 400. They're at the moment with 400 also just too expensive. Even if the ANC would work a little bit better, if it wouldn't have issues with aptX and these things, it shouldn't cost more than 300. I mean, I get it, Beyerdynamic is a little bit more of a premium brand when it comes to headphones and that's their first product and so on. But when I see 1000XM3, which is super popular and a lot of people love it, already gets on deals like available for like 250 or even less, then this one just has a hard time. Now, if you would ask me 250 for the 1000X or this one for 400, if it just comes down to the sound quality, I would say, okay, I'm gonna bite the bullet and go for the Beyerdynamic, but not with the issues at the moment. And well, then for me, a long-term comfort just wasn't quite there because of the pads being too small and my ears getting a little bit too warm. I mean, the warm thing is something that happens on a lot of these, and if you are outside, have some little bit of a breeze, it's not so much of an issue, even though you won't get that much air out of that. But at the moment, they should definitely work on improving the whole ANC thing with the profile enhancement. Otherwise, I mean, comfort-wise, a lot of people will be more than happy with that. The build quality, they will just have to accept what it is because it's not like it's worse than the other ones. They all pretty much use plastic. Some feel a little bit nicer executed, maybe don't flubber so much. But sound, yes. But this is ANC. I mean, I've seen also people comparing these to the Beyerdynamic Avento Wireless. I don't get why. On-ear versus over-ear. No ANC versus ANC, even though you maybe can't even use it. These have Tesla drivers. These are completely something different. So also actually sound signatures quite a bit different, even though they also use the Make It Yours app and so on. So that's it for now. And now I actually got the chance. You can see, it always switches off with the colors because left and right and so on. But yeah. The weird thing for me is I've seen a review where they said their first attempt and they are already at the top of the world. So we're playing with the best of the best. How? In terms of sound, absolutely. They actually surpassed the ones that I've tried so far. I haven't tried the Jabra. Jabra always tells me they will send me one and I never get it. The Denon I will try, but sound-wise so far, way above a Bose, way above a Sony or something like that. But in terms of ANC, which is the one thing that most people will buy this for, because when I read the comments about the 1000X, everyone told me, I don't care so much about the sound quality, all I want is ANC to be good. Then this one doesn't make so much sense. But I also saw a forum post where people said, I like the sound so much, I don't even use the ANC that often, so good. I don't know why you would buy an ANC headphone that you can't use with ANC, but yeah, that's just me. Okay, until next time, bye.